Good morning and welcome to our thought for the day. Today marks the beginning of a new series where I have asked individuals to share the reasons perhaps why they follow Jesus. And these are going to be stories of personal faith, beginning this morning with Penney. And I'm sure that you'll enjoy listening and just reflecting on our own personal journeys with Jesus Christ. So I hope these will be helpful as we move towards the Advent season. And here's Andy.
Hi. I don't know whether this is morning or afternoon or evening for you because, of course, I'm looking at a screen and you'll watch it on the internet. My name's Andy Penney. Nick asked me a question and I'm going to read it from my phone. Why do I follow Jesus? Simple answer to that is I don't really believe I follow Jesus. Now you may say, well, how did I come to that decision? Well, why I don't think I follow Jesus. I started off as a kid, one of 6 kids. We went to church. I wasn't allowed to play football on the Sunday. I had to go to Sunday school twice, morning and afternoon Sunday school. Oh man, Jesus was there. See, I grew up with this guy called Jesus. Every part of my life, my father used to preach in little villages all around Wimborne and up towards Salisbury, Bower, Chalk, Cricklestyle, Dameron. Oh, what's that one? Rockbourne. Oh, loads of little villages that have these little. So Jesus was part of me, my life growing up. But let's be honest, not really anything to do with me in that sense that what my dad talked about him, but my mum talked about him, my grandparents talked about him, but I go to church, and the local church we went to, because we went to Sunday school, you get your prize giving every year. Go, okay, you've been 52 weeks of the year. You have got fantastic attendance. Well, let's be honest, that wasn't me attending 52 weeks of the year. I had to go. My parents took me there or whatever. So I'm offered, a prize, you can choose what you want. Oh, well, I'll have a book about football then. Well, a book about sport then. Sorry. So you get this book, adventure stories or whatever. They just propped up. I had an attic bedroom, second floor, ex-servants' quarters, an old rickety cast iron, what would now be called a Velux, but it wasn't a Velux. It was just, and where the metal had perished a bit, it wouldn't stay open. So this book I got, massive, didn't read it at all. It sat there holding the window open for years and years. That was its function in life, and that's the problem. You hear about this person called Jesus, and then you'd look and you think, well, what's attractive? It's boring. Church was fundamentally boring. Now, if that's what Jesus is about, then, I can understand why people don't go to church. I can understand why people reject Jesus is. And Nick says, why do you follow Jesus? So why do I follow Jesus? This is where this started. Well, it kicked off for me. When I was about 13, part of the youth, we went to Swanage for a youth conference over a half-term weekend in February. Bleak. Swanage is bleak at those times. Empty, which is nice, but bleak. But this weekend, a guy called Bob Talford, who was a young guy, he was at Bible college close by, and there's a table tennis table there. That's brilliant, table tennis table, bit of pool. That's me. I'll tell you what, that guy Bob Talford, he had a wasted youth because he could make that table tennis ball move in any direction you want it to go, and you couldn't play against him. Serve and you go, where'd that ball go? Now, that was the first time I'd come across someone who was, people would say, following Jesus, that actually connected with me in terms of there's more than this boring stuff. A bit later on, sixth form, the church had a 2-week, what they call campaign. So 2 weeks of services, and they brought in an evangelist called Eddie Vass. But he needed somewhere to stay, so he actually stayed in our house. And this guy was different. Again, he wasn't a boring person. Now that's from my perspective, of course. Okay, and that's really the connection I had with why I follow Jesus. Suddenly, these two people came into my life over a period of 4 years, and it went in tandem with, of course, stories I knew about Jesus. Obviously, I'd not been deaf and dumb, being in Sunday school and all that time. There were people who, if you read the Bible, there's a guy called Job. He had it all, everything, massive wealth, herds, everything, lovely family, must have had a wife, wonderful wife, a relationship with God in the sense that he prayed for his kids every day because he knew his kids might do things wrong, and he wanted God to forgive them. And he lost it all, lost everything, to the extent that boils, he couldn't sit down because he got boils on his derriere, causing so much pain. Yet, in the middle of that, his wife said, just reject God. I didn't. Why? Why would you reject God at that point? You had sought to do all you could do to serve him, and everything had gone. Everything. So those are stories I grew up with. There's a verse in the Bible, which words of Jesus, which says, I have come that you might have a life and have it in abundance. Now, no, that wasn't the experience I was, going to church. That wasn't what I was seeing. I was seeing boring. And it was this guy, Bob Telford and Eddie Vass, that kind of did something in that verse. Why I followed Jesus. They clearly were following Jesus. They were clearly people who had a sense of life which I wasn't seeing. Now, why do I say I don't consider myself a follower of Jesus? It's if you actually read about Jesus, what a amazing, upright, honest, loving, caring individual he was. His relationships with down and outs, his relationships with people who are outcasts, his relationships with women who were rejected. Think of the woman caught in adultery, who people brought to him and said, look at this woman, we caught her in adultery. And instantly my mind thinks, yeah, you're men, where's the man? It takes two people to commit adultery. But obviously in those days, the woman completely, utterly rejected, outcast, and they brought her to Jesus. Okay, it was a test. They tested because they knew what the scripture said, they knew what their law said. But Jesus cut through that, and it was about the heart, and said to them, okay, you who have done no wrong, throw the first stone. And they went away. They couldn't throw a stone at and stone her to death, which is what the law had said they needed to do. They couldn't do it. because they looked into themselves and saw there's nothing in us that is worthy. There's nothing in us. There's these things that we are doing that actually make it impossible for us to cast the first stone. And that's the relationship that Jesus had with people. He cut through all the noise that was around and cut to the heart of the matter. And that's where, if I was a true follower of Jesus, that would be the type of person I would want to be. The person that is able to see through the rubbish and actually communicate to the heart, to not judge, to not have labels. John Lewis this morning talks about we as people, we label people, and by labeling them, we can put them in a little corner and therefore we don't love them. There's a reason we don't love them, because there's that about them. Well, that's not what Jesus was doing. Labels, Jesus loved. Jesus loved. And if I was a true follower of Jesus, that would be where I would want to be. Someone who was able to love unconditionally. Someone was able to give of time, of money, unconditionally. But that giving and loving unconditionally is not to my neighbour. As Jesus said, the first commandment is this: love the Lord your God with everything. And that's why I don't consider myself a true follower of Jesus. Thanks for listening. Bye.